All right, let's jump right into this explainer, because today we're looking at a machine that literally scratches at the boundaries of physics. We're talking about the Bugatti Chiron. It's the fastest, most extreme, and most exclusive production super sports car in the world. And what makes it so utterly fascinating is this inherent ambivalence it has. It's an ultra-powerful work of art that somehow bridges the impossible gap between an elegant beauty and an absolute track-tearing beast. To really wrap our heads around what we're dealing with here, let's start with a rapid-fire punch of numbers. First up, 1,500. That is 1,500 horsepower crammed into a single production vehicle. I mean, when this car was just a concept, the entire automotive industry basically said it would be impossible to put that much power into a street-legal car without it melting down. Well, they were wrong. Follow that up immediately with its governed top speed, 420 kilometers an hour. It is a motorized superlative that demands entirely new engineering paradigms just to keep its tires glued to the asphalt at those extreme speeds. And just to finish off this cold open, if you floor the pedal, this mechanical marvel rockets from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in just 2.4 seconds. That is literally faster than you can process the thought of moving. There's a quote from a Bugatti design engineer that hits the nail on the head. God created heaven and earth, and the French created the Bugatti Chiron. It perfectly captures the sheer brilliance and honestly the arrogance required to build this car. You simply cannot compare the Chiron to another vehicle on the market. The developers didn't just push the envelope. These started working where everyone else stopped. They view it not just as a car, but as an absolute pinnacle of creation itself. So here's our roadmap for the next few minutes as we take a chronological factory tour of the Molsheim Dream Factory. First, the ultimate engineering challenge. Second, building the Holy Grail. Third, crafting the carbon skeleton. Fourth, the marriage of extremes. And finally, pushing the physical limits. Okay, jumping right into section 1. The ultimate engineering challenge, merging two impossible worlds. The engineers were facing what seemed like an impossible paradox. On one side, you have the realm of Formula One racing, right? That requires pure, unadulterated power and extreme speed, but it results in lightweight fragility. On the other side, you have standard road cars, the kind that need daily reliability, the ability to idle in summer traffic jams without overheating, and long-term durability. The Chiron is the mind-bending intersection of both. It's a hypercar that can break the 400-kilometer-an-hour mark on a test track in the afternoon and then comfortably drive you to the opera in the evening. And this idea didn't just come out of nowhere. It builds on a 110-year legacy of French motorized superlatives. Founded way back in 1909 by Ettore Bugatti, who, get this, hand-cast his own engine blocks, the brand has always been synonymous with racing victories, especially those by Louis Chiron in the 1920s. Fast forward to 2004, the modern Molsheim Dream Factory was built, and that historic obsession with pushing boundaries culminated in a 400-kilometer-an-hour world record in 2017 and an astonishing 490-kilometer-an-hour barrier-breaking run in 2019. Let's step into the engine plant for Section 2, Building the Holy Grail, Forging the Heart of the Beast. We're talking about a 640-kilogram powerhouse that makes the whole Chiron possible, the W16 engine. It's an 8-liter, 16-cylinder engine equipped with 4 high-performance sequential turbochargers. To keep this massive 3,700-part engine as compact as possible, they brilliantly distributed the 8 cylinders over 2 V-shaped banks to artificially create a W engine. And those turbochargers, they're sequential. That means 2 kick in early and the other 2 join at 2,800 RPM to completely eliminate turbo lag, giving you this constant, brutal power delivery. Building this mechanical masterpiece requires such extreme precision that literally only 8 technicians in the entire world are permitted to assemble it. Take the magnesium oil pan, for example. Before it's attached, the surface has to be cleaned with a special oxygen plasma. Then, a black sealant is meticulously applied to the edge. From that exact second, the clock is ticking. The technician has exactly 20 minutes to position it over the crankshaft and seal it to the engine block. One small delay, the structural integrity is compromised. But here's the crazy part. Bugatti doesn't just build it, they absolutely torture it. Once assembled, the engine is strapped into a test booth to a dynamometer that had to be specially built because no other machine on Earth could handle the load. They demand the full 1,500 horsepower at 6,700 RPM continuously for up to 1,000 hours. The forces are so violent that the exhaust manifold physically glows red-hot inside the test chamber. while 500 different values are constantly being monitored. If the metal can survive this grueling simulation, it can survive anything out on the road. Now that we've got this heavy engine, we need to balance it out. That brings us to Section 3, crafting the carbon skeleton, the lightweight monocoque. To maintain a healthy body mass index for a car with such a massive engine, the engineers went full aerospace grade. The 150-kilogram hollow driver cockpit is made entirely of carbon fiber reinforced plastic. It's then heavily supplemented with ultra-lightweight titanium hardware, magnesium oil pans, and precision-milled aluminum components. Every single material is chosen for one reason: to be the absolute lightest and strongest available on the planet. Woven right inside this carbon shell is the car's central nervous system. We're talking about an incredible 2.5 kilometers of cables running through the vehicle. Fastened entirely with lightweight titanium screws, this vast network connects the hypercar's 20 different control units, monitoring everything from tire camber to engine acoustics in real time. So, it's time to bring all these pieces together in Section 4, the marriage of extremes, assembling the hypercar. The really crucial point here is the environment where this 2,600-part jigsaw puzzle gets assembled by hand. The Molsheim Atelier, where 20 master builders spend 2 whole months on a single car, is closer to a sterile hospital operating room than a mechanic's garage. You walk in and it's highly polished synthetic resin floors, extreme cleanliness, and absolutely zero oil stains or rubber tracks. It is this brilliant, stark contrast between the violent, explosive forces this car produces and the surgically sterile, perfectly quiet room it's actually built in. The climax of all this quiet assembly is a ceremony they actually call the marriage. This is where the front carbon monocoque is perfectly aligned with that 750-kilogram rear section housing the engine. And honestly, this blew my mind. Only 14 titanium bolts hold the entire front and rear sections together. Just 14 bolts lock the driver inside this missile. And this 2-part design is highly intentional, by the way. In the event of a catastrophic accident, the rear end is actually designed to tear away from the driver's cockpit to prevent fires from reaching the cabin. Okay, let's see what happens when those 14 bolts are really put to the test. Section 5, pushing the physical limits, aerodynamics and survival. Look, driving at 420 kilometers an hour is one thing, but bringing a 2-ton vehicle to a dead stop from that speed, that is a terrifying physics problem. To put it into perspective, under maximum braking load, the Chiron's carbon ceramic brake discs soar to 1100 degrees Celsius. That is the exact equivalent temperature of glowing molten lava right there inside the wheel well. And while this is happening, those massive custom tires are dealing with centrifugal forces so extreme that 7 metric tons of force are actively trying to rip the rubber tread apart. The brakes alone just aren't enough to fight those kinds of forces, so the car actively changes its shape to survive. The exact second the driver hits the brakes at high speed, the adaptive rear wing deploys, tilting to a sheer 49-degree angle in just 0.8 seconds. It becomes a literal air brake, instantly slamming 850 kilograms of downforce onto the rear axle. It functions exactly like a parachute, fighting the principles of lift that would otherwise cause this hypercar to just take off like a commercial airplane. So, what happens when you turn off the electronic safety limiters and just let the beast run free? Well, in 2019, on a test track in Germany, test driver Andy Wallace found out in a specialized Supersport 300 Plus pre-production model wrapped completely in protective film, he hit a staggering 490.48 kilometers an hour. That is over 304 miles per hour. At that speed, the car is covering 136 meters every single second. It's a record that fundamentally altered automotive history forever. Yet despite completely breaking the boundaries of what's physically possible, the engineers are still driven by the ethos of the company's founder, Ettore Bugatti, who famously said, "Perfection is never achieved." In the Chiron, form exclusively follows performance. Just take the iconic C-line curving along the side of the door. People think it's just a beautiful, stylistic, romantic idea. It isn't. The engineers needed a massive air intake along the whole body side to feed pressurized air into the engine compartment just to keep it from melting. They solved a violent technical problem with a flawless, elegant curve. Which really just leaves us to ponder one final question. Bugatti's guiding philosophy is incredibly simple. If it's comparable, it's no longer Bugatti. They've conquered 1,500 horsepower, they've beaten the heat of molten lava, and they've shattered the 490-kilometer-an-hour barrier. So what fundamental laws of physics will they have to break to create their next masterpiece? It's a question that leaves us entirely in awe of the sheer engineering audacity we've just explored. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep your curiosity as boundless as these speeds. Catch you next time.